get ready. It is coming for sure. Our light dusting of snow that we saw in the region last night is over now, but 24 hours from now, we are going to be staring at a whopper of a storm. They're talking about 1 to 2 feet possibly, and we may be in the bullseye right here in the mid-Atlantic. So here with how we can get prepared, we've got AAA's John Townsend. Hi, John.
Hi, Melanie. Great seeing you.
Joining us on the Newsline, we've got Prince George's County's Emergency Management Director, Ronnie Gill. Hi, Ronnie.
How are you?
Oh, good to talk with you as well. So, John, let me start with you. Last night, we got, what, less than an inch, they're saying?
Inch and a half, less than an inch.
Yeah. I think it was 1/10 of an inch out of Dulles.
Right.
So just a little dusting. Nobody made much of it beforehand, but boy, the people trying to get home last night, they were stuck for hours. People slipping and sliding all over the roads, not a snowplow or a salt truck in sight. What do you make of what happened last night?
It was catastrophic, and it could have been avoided if we had had a game plan, but we didn't. And I know that cities and state governments and county governments are saying that they couldn't retreat the roads, but you have to have some adhesive on the road, some abrasives on the road so people can have traction. And this happened in the middle of rush hour, the evening rush hour, and it took people hours to get home. And people were panicking and sliding out of control, and they couldn't gain any traction, and the smallest hills in the District of Columbia were problematic last night. I was one of those persons caught in it because I was going across town to do one of these interviews to tell people how to drive in snow and ice, and every lesson that we teach I had to use last night to make it home safely.
How long did it take you to get across town?
It took me an hour and a half, a trip that should have taken a half hour. And also remember, the president was stuck in this too, and he has a motorcade and the ability to do rolling roadblocks, and he was stuck in it. And there are some motorists who slept in their cars. And it goes back to what we saw at Snowmageddon, and it was just a horrendous commute. And Mayor Bowser just a moment ago admitted it. They were caught off guard, and we as motorists were caught unawares.
Do you put the blame anywhere in particular? I mean, should the media have made more of it?
I think all of us were just caught off guard by this. We wouldn't have thought that only an inch or less would have paralyzed the region, and that's exactly the word that we should use. It was paralysis on our roadways last night.
Yeah, and we wonder, I mean, why do we get so excited when there's an inch or just a dusting of snow?
Well,
but around here, look what happened.
Well, it was not just the half inch. It was the fact that we'd had freezing conditions 3 days running, and it was just the perfect storm, although it was 1 inch. And what I thought about last night, too, with all the fender benders and all the crashes, would be that we have a game plan in place for emergency evacuations, because after all, we're the nation's capital area, and if there's a terrorist attack, God forbid, how do we extricate ourselves? So these are very important templates and lessons and object lessons for us all.
I think a lot of people are going to be really concerned, having gone through what they did last night, looking at this big storm coming in 24 hours from now. And, you know, this morning on my way in, I still saw cars that had been ditched on the side of the road.
Right.
Some of them up on embankments, so you know it was just very slippery last night.
Now think about this. So the other thing about this, Melanie, and you're exactly right, this is an object lesson. This tells us what we should do to prepare ourselves. So this was a precursor, a harbinger, as it were, of things to come when we get the 20 inches or the 24 inches. Fortunately, most of us will be home by then. And if you have any sense, if you have any brains left, as old folks used to say, use them and stay off the roads.
I want to bring Ronnie Gill in on this,
Yes.
Prince George's County Emergency Management Director. Ronnie, so, you know, it's been a while, I think, since we've had a storm, talking about when they measure it in feet, right? Maybe 5 or 6 years since that's happened. So we may all be a bit rusty on how to deal with something like that. What should we be doing right now to prepare? Because we do have some time.
Well, as so many people have done, is you want to make sure that you stocked up your refrigerator, make sure you have those supplies to get you through the next 3 or 4 days. As John alluded to, if we keep folks off the roadways, then our transportation departments will be able to do what they need to do to get these streets cleared. So if you're spending the next couple of days, make sure that you have food in the refrigerator. Make sure you have supplies such as flashlights, batteries, if you were to lose power. They're talking about blizzard conditions, so that raises the possibility of power outages. If you have a generator, make sure you have the gas for the generators. As I caution everyone, leave the generators outside if you're using generators. When you don't use, if you lose power, don't use candles. Make sure you have plenty of batteries for your flashlights. So things such as that, make sure you have plenty of water, stock up on water, canned foods, any perishable goods. If you lose power, make sure you have canned items so you'll be able to continue to eat. But make sure if you're out, and make sure that you have your kit in your car. Make sure you have a blanket in the car. Well, I don't want people out in these elements, but if you, for some reason, have to be out there, make sure you have supplies in your car as well. John just stated folks were on the road for 5 or 6 hours yesterday. If you get caught out in what's coming over the next day or two, make sure you have those supplies in your cars as well.
Let's talk about our homes now, Ronnie, because there's some things we can do to sort of winterize our homes. One of them has to do with draining faucets and pipes, right?
Correct. You want to keep your pipes from freezing. You can wrap them in insulation or layers of newspaper and cover with a little plastic to keep the moisture out. What you want to do is definitely have your pipes drained. You want to be leery of snow accumulating on your roof areas. So I believe a number of people with the amount of snow will experience some damage to their roofs.
Yeah, snow can be very heavy, and especially if you're talking about a foot or 2 feet of snow, you need to sort of knock it off if you can. And the same goes for trees outside. If you can, get out there, knock the snow off some of the trees.
That's correct. When you're talking about this from the National Weather Service, it's supposed to be a heavy, wet snow, and that heavy, wet snow will weigh down on the power line. So, not telling people to knock snow off of power lines, but like I said, it'll do the same thing to the trees.
And as far as clearing your walk, I mean, you need to do it every 4 hours or so, right? If the snow's coming down that heavily.
Well, the last thing you want to do is wait till you have 18 inches of snow on the ground and then going out to shovel your walkways and your driveways. So as you just suggested, when you get the 2, 3, 4 inches, knock that down, come back out, knock it down. But don't wait till the snow's over before you do it.
And we have to think about our pets, too.
Yes. This is the time when you want to make sure your pets are inside, out of the elements, and if you have an outdoor pet and you want to put pet in a shelter, that's your call. But this is not the time to have pets outside. No,
take care of those furry friends. So, John, let's get back to the roads for a minute. And as far as our cars go, Ronnie was talking about having a blanket in the trunk.
Right.
What other items would be good to have in the trunk?
Well, you should have some warm clothing, extra clothing, a blanket in case you're stranded, gloves, mittens, and a hat, and some snow boots. I have some in my car now. And then, as Ronnie mentioned a moment ago, the snow emergency kit, which includes an ice scraper, jumper cables, heavy-duty jumper cables, because in these extreme conditions in this blizzard, it's going to be extremely cold too, and you have high winds, so you need an 8-gauge or 10-gauge weight jumper cables, and then some non-lopping kitty litter or sand for traction, some extra mats, a shovel to
dig yourself out when you get stuck.
And then the most important thing, Ronnie was talking about not putting that space heater or the extra device in your house. You should also, if you're stuck in the snow and then you extricate yourself, check the exhaust pipe to make sure you don't have snow or ice clogged in it, because if you do, you can easily get carbon monoxide gases inside the cabin of the car, and you just simply will go to sleep behind the wheel and never wake up.
Such a good point, and something I hadn't thought about, really. All right, say you're out driving, and you shouldn't be in this kind of weather that we're getting this weekend.
And may I interrupt you for a second? I know you're the host, but
That's okay.
You just said the most important 3 words. You shouldn't be, okay? And we shouldn't. If you don't have to venture out, don't venture out. How many different ways can we say this? Ronnie said it a moment ago. We're saying it. News Channel 8 is saying it. Channel 7 is saying it. The mayor, the governor of Virginia and Maryland are saying it, stay home and stay off the road. Allow the roadside services people and snow emergency response units to remove the snow. We're going to be stocking this for 3 days. This is a 3-day event. We have a respite right now. This is a quiet before the storm. We have about 24 hours to prepare ourselves, our homes, and our automobiles for this. If you have to venture out, then use extreme caution.
People had to venture out in it last night, and it was a problem. But cars today, they have traction controls, all-wheel drive. Talk to us, take us through a slide and what you should be doing.
Okay, the most important thing to remember in a slide or a skid is, number one, don't panic. Many people do. Look in the direction you wish to go and steer in that direction. Take your foot off the gasoline and gently tap the brakes. And whatever you do, take a deep breath until you gain traction and keep steering. And if you stop, especially on a hillside or going up a hill, then perhaps just tap the brakes and then put the car in the lower gear and try to go in the tractions or the tracks ahead of you. It is better to go in the pathway of vehicles that went before you or are ahead of you instead of trying to go on roads that have not yet been touched by tires. The most important thing, Melanie, is to remember that the only part of your vehicle that touches the road are the tires. So you need to have tires that are properly inflated and have great traction. Because if you don't have traction, you won't be able to maneuver in this.
Lots to keep in mind, and we want to thank you for reminding us of so many of these ways that we can kind of stay safe as we venture about this weekend. John Townsend, AAA, and Ronnie Gill with Prince George's County's Emergency Management Service.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you both for joining us today, and I'm sure we'll be talking with both of you many more times before this long weekend is up.
Yes.
We'll take a quick break here, and we're back with more News Talk right after this.